With that, Michael, I'll just turn it over to you, sir.
All right. Stand up, because like
Whatever you're comfortable with, buddy.
just easier for me to stand up. Back hurts sometimes when I'm sitting down. All right. So as I said, my name is Michael Bonanno III. I'm a Christian rapper, but I also do this thing called MB3D Ministries, and we partnered with a group called BetterEveryday.org. What we're doing, though, is we are going to different companies and organizations throughout the country to help fix their trainings for handicapped people, both physically and mentally. Usually the companies would pay us, but at this moment we're actually trying to make sure to get donations, because it's easier for companies to see the importance if they don't have to pay. If you have that ability to get this training for free, then it's easier to see the value. Otherwise, it's a little bit more, do we really need this training? Because a lot of places have training, but things I've learned throughout going in different companies and whatnot is a lot of the training happens to be sympathy-based. Sure, they can tie up your hand and make you go through a maze or try to button up your shirt. But all that's really going to do is show you how difficult it is with one hand. But since I had a stroke when I was 2 months old, like you heard there, and you'll hear again when I actually go in a little bit more in depth in my testimony, I've learned the tips and tricks on how to actually do this stuff with just one side of my body working. For instance, for the buttoning up shirt, sure, once you get good at it, you can button up your shirt while standing. But it's a little bit easier if you sit down, because you can hook it in and the flap won't fall right down. Just a little example, but that's what happens. So that's what we're trying to do. We also actually have a section where we're dealing with addiction, military member. So it's a wide range of stuff, but I deal specifically with the handicaps. Okay, as for my testimony, as you heard, when I was 2 months old, I had a stroke, and it left me with no feeling and very little motor skill on the right side of my body. Growing up, I was bullied all the time because of it. Kids would throw metal toy cars at me to see if I could feel it, call me a robot because I had a brace on my right leg. This type of stuff. And we actually had to move to a different school because the school that I was at didn't have the proper educational thing for somebody with my disability. My dad made me sure it's not a disability, but whatever. It's how it's viewed. So growing up, because of the bullying, my thought process was God is not real, and if he is, he's a complete jerk, because what kind of loving father would give his beloved child this to deal with? Well, that changed when I turned 16. My friend asked me if I wanted to go with him to this Bible camp, and I was like, no. I did not want to go. But then the church started calling me every day, kind of like a debt collector. Hey, come here, come. No. I found out 2 years ago he gave them my number. I didn't know at the time. But after a while being pestered, I was like, you know what, fine, I'll go. I told my parents I wanted to go, and they sent me on my way. First night there, when I got there, I was very depressed, started thinking about my Nonno, because up to that point, Nonno meaning Italian for grandpa. Growing up, he would always tell me to use my right hand more, and the last thing I ever said to him in regards to that was, not in your life. And he died, so very difficult to forgive myself for saying those last words to him. And when I was there on that first night, I was really depressed, and my friend offered to pray for me. Okay, I thought, whatever, just do it. And he prayed for a sign that my Nonno was with God, and that everything would be fine. Blah, blah, blah. That's how I thought. And on the second night there, the youth pastor was in a prayer line because they debuted a new song called Greater Still during 8 p.m. service. And during the bridge, they set up the prayer line and they let the bridge continue to go. I was like, no, I'm not going to be up here for a prayer line. I don't really want prayer. I don't need prayer. This is all garbage. started walking away, but the youth pastor left his post in the prayer line and ran straight to me. Put his hand on my right shoulder. I was like, oh great, here we go. Okay, I'll just get down. So I got down, he prayed over me. He prayed that my life would glorify God, that whatever was ailing me would vanish, that I would be healed in God's name. And the second he finished, a cold, sharp tingling went down the right side of my body, and I gained 80% of my feeling back.
Wow.
In an instant, 16 years without feeling became 80%. I didn't change until I left the camp. And my sister's friend called me the R word, or retard. I don't like that word. She called me that word, and I was like, oh, okay, now I realize the problem. Okay. I realized I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. One of my friends decided, we're going to create a club, a Christian club. This was the first time I met him, so he walked up to me and was like, we're going to create the Cadet Cross. And I followed Luke 12:48 because of it. For whom much has been given, much more will be required. The reason it became my favorite verse is because Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man was the reason I did off myself before I found Christ. A lot of bullying. But that's why I'm here. That is the reason why I'm here, because God found me in a place I didn't want him, in a time I needed him, and everything changed. Alright, now we'll get into the actual message. So, if you have your Bibles, you could turn to Matthew 25, verse 14. We'll be reading all the way till 30. The reason is we're talking about the parable of talents. Now for reading, I sit down because I can't hold the Bible straight. Yeah, the paper only says 25, up to 25, but that's because there was not enough space. All right. So, chapter 25, verse 14 through 30. For it is just like a man about to go on a journey. He called his own servants and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent, depending on each one's own ability. Then he went on a journey. Immediately the man who had received 5 talents went and put them to work, and earned 5 more talents. In the same way, the man who earned 2 talents earned 2 talents more. But the man who had received 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 talents approached and presented 5 more talents. And the master said, he said to the master, Master, you gave me 5 talents. See, I've earned 5 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, my good and faithful servant. You are faithful over a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Share in your master's joy. The man who had 2 talents also approached. He said, Master, you gave me 2 talents. See, I've earned 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, my good and faithful servant. You are faithful over a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Share in your master's joy. The man who had received 1 talent also approached and said, Master, I know you are a harsh man, reaping where you haven't sown and gathering where you haven't scattered seed. So I was afraid and went off and hid your talent in the ground. See, you have what is yours. His master replied to him, You evil and lazy servant. If you knew I reap where I haven't sown and gather where I haven't scattered, then you should have deposited my money with the bankers. I would have received my money back with interest when I returned. So take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has more will be given, and he will have more than enough. But from one who does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. And throw this good-for-nothing servant into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's the parable of talents. Okay, good night, everybody. No. No. Yep. Quickest message, right? No. So, here's a few things about this passage that in Western culture and times past people might not get. A talent is not a gift. And when I say that, I mean, I say talent, when you say talent, we automatically assume something that we're good at. I have a talent for rapping. You have a talent for making money, whatever it is, okay? That's not what the talent is here. See, at the time, a talent was actually a unit of measurement for how much gold or silver was worth. And a talent is $1.4 million worth of gold or silver in today's economy, based on how much gold the master or whatever had. So it wasn't just a trivial sum, it was a substantial amount. Okay, well, see, the thing about that, the reason why is, when you hear about parables from Jesus, a lot of the time they're about rural living. He tends to talk about rural living, you know, farming, agriculture, hence the planting of the seeds. But the thing about parables is it's meant to get to the people he's talking to. And he was talking to people of business mindset. So he was talking about investment, risk, and return in that instance. The money he was given, the money they were given in the story, was meant to be invested elsewhere to have more return, because that is how it works. The intention of it was to talk about what it was like when you enter the kingdom of heaven and it comes time to take account of what you've been given. Everything that you did, what did you do in return and response with what you've been given? Your faith. So, what did you do? That's the thing. You're given all this stuff, go for it. But when people have this faith, especially like separation, like Mike talked about earlier, the thing about it is, when you have that separation, you assume that if you have faith, you should hide it, if you're not 100% sure. But that's incorrect, because faith increases with the measure in which you share it. Just like the talents going out and being used. It increases when you share it. Peter Morin, which is the co-founder of Catholic Workers Movement, said, "We are a country of go-getters, but we should be a country of go-givers." And it fits with everything here because it's your faith that you're giving. You give it, people can get a hold of it, cultivate it, grow it like a seed. And then they might find their own faith. They might find their own way because of what you've said, going through the Word because of what you've done, because of what you said. Now you can just take your faith, hide it in the ground, like the man with the $1.4 million. Yeah, that sounds crazy now, when I say $1.4 million instead of one talent. Probably didn't know that it was $1.4 million till today. You could do that. But that's not what God does. God isn't a taking God. God doesn't just take and hold. He's giving. He gives you things, and that's how we are meant to be. Because if you hide it, it never grows. And then you'll never get to the kingdom of heaven and hear, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." You'll hear, "Apart from me, I know you're not. You've done nothing." And it's the thing where it comes to faith. When you want to share, when you don't want to share, you feel you don't understand. But you try to hold on to it. And you can't. If you cling, then nobody knows. Nobody will hear it, nobody will feel it. And we are ambassadors. Like I said, we are meant to go out. A philosopher once told me, and wrote down in my notes, he wanted to remain anonymous, which is why on all the papers it says anonymous. But he has a name. He said, "There has to be faith which is not expressed in things to which you cling, and ideas, opinions to which you cling, and a kind of desperation. Faith is the act of letting go." It's a seed. If you don't let go, then it never grows. If you don't go, then it never sprouts. It will not do anything because of it. That is the point of everything he said. If I didn't, for example, if I didn't have that experience and decide by my own being to follow Luke 12:48 because what Spider-Man taught me, what the Bible taught me, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have started MB3D Ministries. I wouldn't have worked with BetterEveryday.org, and people with handicaps might not be getting the help that they need. I let my faith go and show it. Even when people question it. That's even better when people question it. We've had that thing going on for like 20 minutes. He was talking about the same thing. Having evidence, having this. The faith, when people question it, allows it to grow because that makes you question, what is the answer? Having that base knowledge, having that, oh, I was raised Christian, that's great. But when you have an answer, when you're able to question and grow yourself, that's when you can actually allow it to grow. That's when you can go out and do it. So be more like the one who had 2.8 and 7 million talents, the 5 talents and the 2 talents. Because otherwise, it's never going to grow. It'll never be. And that's what God wants us to do, is to share it. There you go. It's all in the Word.
Michael, God's got a big call on your life.
Yeah.
You are. Josh, would you get up, stand behind him, put your hand on his shoulder, and pray for him? Youth, no gray hairs.
Not no, but Father God, I just thank you for Michael and the life that you have set before him before the foundation of the world. Lord, I pray that you would give him the strength to do everything that you put in front of him, Lord. I pray that you would strengthen his hands. Lord, I pray that you give him an answer for everyone who would have a question to why he believes in you, Lord, and why he loves you, Lord. I pray that it would just flow out of him in every conversation. Lord, I pray that you give him favor with everyone that he comes in contact with. I pray that his business and all his endeavors grow and increase because he is firmly planted in you. And we thank you for all this in advance. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.